Mr. Jack Reiss, thank you very much for coming on to 805boxing.com, and I have to get used to doing that because you're the first guest I have on my 805boxing.com website. So thank you very much, and it's a great honor to have you on.
I appreciate it, and I'm totally honored that I'm the first guest.
And let's go ahead and do a bio on you and a little background on you. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City, in a place people have probably heard of it, Coney Island, New York, and brought up there till I was 23 when I moved out here, out west.
What was it like living there in New York at that time?
You know, it was a great place to grow up. Looking back now as an adult, I couldn't have got a better street education and a street smarts education. It was a tough neighborhood. I didn't know any better, but looking back, I loved it. It was just like the movie The Bronx Tale and some other movies you might have seen on TV. Just a lot of fun growing up.
What were you like as a kid growing up?
Well, my father died when I was a young guy. I was 8 years old, so I was kind of, a latchkey kid, one of those kids that my mom went to work, so I had my own key since I'm 8 years old and coming and going as I please. So you can imagine, I got a little trouble and, did some crazy stuff. But sports is what got me, on the straight and narrow. I was into playing ice hockey and I was into martial arts and boxing, and that's what kind of got me straightened out. I got my fair share of street fights growing up, but then I was able to channel all that energy into sports. And one thing about growing up in New York, you don't need a car there. So even as a young kid, I was able to get on the trains and go see the Yankees, the Mets, the New York Rangers, the New York Knicks. So I was kind of a sports freak growing up, and it was pretty easy to get to the games and do that stuff. And, I was really into sports. Not into school, but really into sports.
God, it's a lot different from what you're saying to what it is now, and how parents nowadays, they freak out if they don't see you around for about half an hour compared to what you said. You could just hop on a train and go wherever you want, and it was so free back then, and it's a lot different now. What were you guys like as a household, though, like growing up? I mean, you said your father passed away, unfortunately, when you were 8, but what was it like there at home? Were you guys pretty close there at home? Did you have siblings? What was it like?
Well, thank you for asking. Yes, my mom, as an adult, looking back now, I can tell you she is and was a wonderful woman. She's 94 years old, in a nursing home now, but she did an incredible job raising us. I have an older brother and an older sister, and, my mom had a great work ethic. She worked till she was 76. She got on the trains every single day from the time my dad died, 5 days a week, and went to Manhattan to earn a living for us, to keep a roof over our head. I didn't know any different. I thought, my life was normal because I always had we lived in an apartment, but we always had food and we always had a roof over our head. And my mother loved us. I knew, my brother and sister, we weren't the closest because we were all kind of running in our own direction, but we all knew we were family. And if there was a crisis, boom, we all came to help each other. So it was great that way. I got in some scrapes growing up where I'll never forget there was this kid from like a gang that was supposed to come down and whip my butt, and I was nervous. I was, worried about it because he had beaten up 2 of my friends prior to this at different times, and I guess it was my turn. And, my older brother saw that I was nervous, and he said, "What's going on?" And I told him the story, and he got me all pumped up, and because he had seen me getting into fist fights playing ice hockey, and he goes, "Look, I got your back. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in the background. This guy, you get into this with this guy. I'm not going to let anybody jump in, number one. And number two, if he's beating you and you're getting hurt, I'm breaking it up. I'm getting you out of there, and we'll both take off running if they're trying to jump us." So he was a great older brother. He still is. So it was cool. Cool family. I had a good family for what it was,
Your school life, what were you like as a student?
Nah, man, I was horrible in school. In the old days, people used to say, "You're a type A personality," about me. And now they just say, "You're ADD." So I was one of these kids.
Can't be in one place, huh?
Yeah, I was just one of these kids that have, I'm one of these people that my mind is always going, and I really couldn't concentrate. I didn't like school, and I didn't do well in school at all because I wasn't interested in it. So I barely got out of high school, and within my first semester in community college, I got tossed out for, lack of grades. And then I just, banged around from job to job while I was pursuing an amateur kickboxing career. I took martial arts from the time I was about 15, and this was then I was about when I was about 21. I wanted to be a kickboxer. I had a couple of bouts as a kickboxer, and I realized that when I was 23, finally, that I was going nowhere with it, and I hurt my foot in a fight, one of the matches I had, and I came out to California to get just a little vacation, and I ended up staying. And after about 6 months, of knocking around and having fun and working little odd jobs, I decided, I was looking for real jobs, and I stumbled across the LA Fire Department, and it turned out to be perfect for me. I worked really hard, got myself on the LA City Fire Department. I did 31 years with them and retired at the rank of captain. 2011, came on in 80 and left in 2011. And it was the greatest job for me because it wasn't sitting in an office all day. And with my personality, I just couldn't have done that. Wore a suit and tie and went to an office. The fire department was very exciting. When the bell went off, you never knew what kind of challenge you were going to be faced with, which was perfect for my personality. And there's a scope and a variety of things that you have to know to be successful, which was great because it kept my mind occupied, jumping from thing to learn, to practice on, to do. It was great. It was a great career for me. It was wonderful.
And it seems like from what you're saying, from growing up and saying you got like in a lot of scraps at, there in New York, then you got into a sport like the martial arts or whatnot. Then you went on to become a firefighter. It seems like you liked the challenge. Was that always like instilled in you somehow? Was that always like a part of you?
That's a great question. And as you get older, you learn more and more about yourself. I'm very competitive, but I would never hurt anybody as far as, how do I say this? I would never do something underhanded to beat you at something. I'm fair, I would never badmouth you or try to hurt you to get myself ahead. If I'm going to beat you, it's going to be me beating you. But what the real person I am is I love competition with myself. I love challenging myself to be the best that I could be. I've always believed in, God, and I always believed that if you just be the best you could be, whatever endeavor you're taking on, it's all going to work out well for you. And that's always been my philosophy. So I love personal challenges, whether it's something dumb as trying to learn how to ski or surf or whatever, to all the way up to refereeing and also when I was a fireman. Just be the best you could be and don't lie to yourself. Put the work in, make the full effort, no excuses. And you might not reach the pinnacle, you might not be the best, but you'll be, very satisfied with your performance if you give it your all. And that's who I am, basically.
I love the first few words that you said there answering that question. You said you're fair. The first thing that comes to mind is I'm fair but firm. Joe Cortez, and he was a referee himself, and that's the first thing I thought about.
Great guy.
Yeah, he is.
I talked to Joe. Joe and I have a friendship, and through the boxing industry, we became friends, and we actually speak to each other on a routine basis. He'll call me after a fight and stuff, or even before a fight, and we'll chat. And now he's with ESPN, and great guy.
And after doing something like firefighting, you leave that after 31 years, like you said. What made you decide to go into something like refereeing in a sport like boxing, especially in a sport like boxing? It has a lot of, good vibes, but it has a lot of bad vibes too, from a lot of negativity, things from that go on there. What made you go from something positive as firefighting to what a lot of people see as something as negative as boxing? What made you do that change?
Well, there's nothing in life that doesn't have its challenges, and there's no nirvana. There's nothing perfect. Whatever profession you're in, there comes a little baggage with it. And I've been around boxing, since I was born. My dad, I think he fought. I've got pictures of him standing on the beach in a boxing stance. My mom told me stories about him fighting and boxing. So it's just been in my family. And I've always, been a fan. And then from a fan, I turned into a little bit of an amateur fighter. The last fight I had, as a boxing fight I had, was I fought for the LA Fire Department against the LAPD and LA County Sheriffs in a tournament that they still have. In fact, I just officiated it last week. It's called Battle of the Badges, or Fight for Life, and they raise money for cancer research for the City of Hope. And I'm proud to say that they just, last year, passed the $1 million mark in contributions to the City of Hope for the cancer research. So being around boxing and being a part of it as a young man, I wanted to stay involved. And I always felt that I could, I'm a fair person. I like, when there's a fight, I want it to be fair. I've always been this way. If someone was getting beat up when I was a kid and he had enough, I would always break it up. That's just the way I was. Okay, he's had enough. You beat him. That's it. You're done, And even in hockey, I got in a lot of scraps in hockey. And, if I had the guy and he was out on his feet, I didn't continue to hit him if he dropped or he's out on his feet. I beat him, the fight's over, I'm moving on, So being a referee was kind of like a natural transition for me. It was something that always interested me because it would give me the opportunity to stay involved with boxing and actually be involved with professional boxing. So I pursued it a little bit over, about 17 years ago. I pursued it and started 16 years ago. I did it while I was a fireman, at the same time.
Now, I was never a firefighter, but I worked for the Ventura County Fire Department for about 6.5 years up until 3 months ago. So I have a pretty good idea, what you guys do out there. With all the split-second decisions that I know you guys make out there, having lives on your hands, having, to get involved physically in your duties, on your everyday duties, your everyday shift, do you think that experience doing firefighting and refereeing in a weird way are kind of similar?
Albert, it's not weird. It's exactly the same thing. And in fact, I'm fortunate enough that I teach seminars for the WBC, the IBF, the WBO, as well as the California Athletic Commission. And I've noticed, because I always ask for a raise of hands, I've noticed that a lot of police, fire, and military personnel are referees and judges. And it's very similar in this way. You start out and you go into an academy and you're trained how to handle different crises. As a fireman and a cop, as well as in the military, you're training and you're maintaining your equipment and you're waiting for the bell to ring. The bell rings, you don't know what you're going to, and you go out and you got to analyze, visualize, and execute the proper thing to confine or control the emergency and then make it better. Same thing with a referee. I'm walking around the ring, I'm staying out of the way, and when something happens, my instinct, but my training takes over of what I'm recognizing happening in front of me and trying to make that thing better. It's the exact same thing. You have to be trained to make a split-second decision in a crisis, if that makes sense the way I described it.
In that transition that, you did after you retired from firefighting, what were those early first steps like? What was it like for you in that transitioning from being, firefighter to doing what you're doing right now?
Let me just explain. I was a firefighter, a captain on the fire department, while I started training to become a professional referee. I didn't retire into it. I did them at the same time, and I just retired 3 years ago from the fire department. And my training was some of the best training I've ever taken in my entire life with the California State Athletic Commission. At that time, they had a 3-year program that they created. The referees created it. The commission felt that some of the referees at the time were getting a little bit old and they better develop a new crop, and they gave it to the referees to handle it, to make a program up that would develop good refs. And there were 92 applicants that had passed the application process. There's probably a couple hundred that tried to do this. 92 applicants ended up showing up in a room in the LA Boxing Club to start this course, a 1-year program of instruction and testing in LA Boxing in the gym. And then after that, we did one fight a month, not a whole card, just one fight on one card a month for the next 8 to 12 months. And if you pass those two things, you got on probation your 3rd year, and you could work 4 and 6 rounders, but you had to sign an agreement that if you did anything wrong or they felt you did anything wrong, they could let you go without even the possibility of suing or arbitration. You were gone, and we signed it. And all throughout the way, we had mentorship. We had the referees. Some of the referees took a real interest in us. Marty Denkin was one of them, Pat Russell, Larry Rosadia, Lou Filippo, even Chuck Hassett and Jim Jenkins helped a bit. And they helped us along. For the guys who really wanted to do it, they were out there to help you, and you took a lot of constructive criticism. You had to have broad shoulders to take a lot of that constructive criticism when you made mistakes and move on. But it was a great and rewarding program. And out of the 92, there was only 8 of us that made it. And there's only 7 of us left, I think, right now, or 8. Maybe it was 9, and now there's 8. I can't remember.
I remember asking International Boxing Hall of Famer Richard Steele what it was like to referee his first fight, and he said it was a smoker in Bakersfield in the 70s, and he was very nervous about it. What was it like for you? What was it like on your first outing, out there being a referee?
Well, it was extremely nerve-wracking. There was a lot of pressure and a lot of tension. Some of the pressure was self-imposed, but some of it was real pressure to perform, and I'll explain what I mean. I had gone through this 1-year-long program, and there was a lot at stake, and I had watched a lot of people just drop out. I'd taken away a lot of time from my wife and my children, and even from the ability to work overtime. I gave that up just to go to the boxing classes on a Saturday. I rearranged my schedule so I could be there the Saturdays that I had to be there. And, every moment you were in that ring, especially that first time, you were under tremendous scrutiny. So stepping into that ring, there was a huge amount of pressure on you, or me at the time, and I really felt the pressure. And, it's great. And what people ask, what's the difference between now and then? I always tell them, when I was first starting out, I would get out of the ring, and my questions to my peers would be, did I do okay? Did I do it correct? Well, now I don't ask if I did it right or wrong. I ask what I could do different or better, in the ring. So you know what you're doing, but you're always looking to improve, where in the beginning, you're really not sure if you did it even right, if that makes sense.
Do you remember working your first world title fight, and what was it like for you?
The first title fight I did was a regional title, and again, it was after, I think, 3 or so years. It was a 10-round regional title fight, and it was after 3 years of working in the industry. I was a lot calmer than I was the first night that I did, my first bout and such. And I had done 10 rounds before. They worked you up slowly. Started out with 4 and 6, and when you showed proficiency 4 and 6, they moved you up to 8s and 10s, and then when the opportunity came, they either gave you a 10-round regional or a 12-round regional title fight. And doing that was, I was under tremendous scrutiny the whole 3 years, so that step up was just a normal process for me. It felt just like a normal, here goes another challenge type thing, and I enjoyed it, and I've worked a bunch. Obviously, I worked a bunch since, and I love it. But it's a different level. That's totally a different level.
Earlier this year, I had referee Tony Weeks on. He said being a referee is a thankless job. When I really started thinking about it, I was like, he's right. When you guys do a great job, we expect that of you, and we don't really recognize it. We expect you guys to be perfect. But when you guys do something wrong, we're the first ones at your throat, and we're the first ones to jump on you in a second. Do you agree with what Tony said? Do you agree that refereeing is a thankless job?
I don't know if I agree totally with Tony. It definitely is a thankless job in a lot of ways, but there are thanks that we get, and they come from strange sources, and sometimes not such strange sources, and I'll let you know what I mean. I recently did a fight where I stopped the fight, where the corner person and the manager didn't want to stop the fight, and I stopped the fight because I'd seen enough, and the fighter would not quit. And I got thanked from fans. I got thanked from actually the cornerman later on. Said, you know what? I should have stopped that fight. Thank you for stopping the fight. And when people come up to you and they tell you, hey, that was a great job you did in a tough situation, you do get a feeling, of thankful feeling from these people, and you do get a feeling of belonging when fighters give you compliments and such. So it's not totally thankless, but I understand what Tony's talking about, and that is, like you said, Albert, you expect us to do a perfect job, and we're human. And a boxing match is it's dynamic. It's constantly changing. It's constantly moving. So for us to be in the perfect position every single time, it's impossible. So there are going to be times where we miss stuff, and there's going to be times where we didn't miss stuff, or when we get in there, it's a little bit awkward looking because of where we were, but we get the job done, and as long as you get the job done and there's no one getting hurt because of your actions or you're cheating, then you're okay. So I don't really believe it's totally thankless, but it's a tough spot to be in because, the best job we do is when no one notices us. When there's a great fight going on and we don't screw it up. And we just keep the flow moving and we make sure that nobody's doing anything unethical in that ring, and then nobody really even notices us.
The first fight I ever saw in my life, I was 5 years old. It was in August of 1980, and it was a fight between a Mexican boxer by the name of Lupe Pintor against a fighter from Wales named Johnny Owen. And in that fight, Lupe Pintor, the champion, he knocked out Owen, and Owen, he collapsed, he fell, and 6 weeks later he died from the injuries he sustained in that fight. Several fighters with their dads in the corner in California have died. Do stats like that, does that bring pressure to you that California boxing referees are kind of under a microscope because of stats like that for the last 5 or 6 fighters that have died in California, their dads were in their corner? Do things like that even come to your mind when you're, doing your job or your duty?
Well, there's two different issues you're talking about, and one of my considerations about what's going on in front of me is when a fighter has their dad in the corner. It's a statistical proven fact that most fighters that died did have their dad in the corner. They don't like to quit with their dad in their corner. And I use that as a tool in my tool pouch, that if that fighter's taking a lot of punishment and his dad's in his corner, I know he's not going to quit. I'm going to have to pull the plug whether his father likes it or not, and I'm going to stop the fight. But I use it as a tool. I don't use it, it doesn't cause any more pressure. But I could tell you some other stuff that I've been noticing that's, to me, I use as a tool as well. You got Magomedov Abdusalamov I believe he's from the Ukraine. There's another group of individuals now from the Ukraine, from Eastern Europe, that are just tough as nails, that are all into boxing now. And those are another group of guys that just don't have any quit in them. And Mago wouldn't quit that night. I just did a Rustam Nurgayev fight, and he was giving it his all that night, but he just didn't have it, and he wouldn't quit. And I think, like the young guys we see with no quit in them when their father's in the corner, we're going to see these Eastern European guys that we're going to have to watch out for too, that they just don't quit. And we're going to have to stop fights, accordingly as well.
Are you happy doing what you're doing?
I love doing what I'm doing. I am so passionate about it, I can't even explain to you how passionate I am. In fact, my wife can describe it better than me. What I say about boxing is that boxing has been my mistress. It has taken me away from my family and my job and my wife quite a bit, because I have this love affair with this sport. And sometimes it is so wonderful, it just keeps me coming back. Other times it's not so great, and it's disappointing and things happen, just like a mistress would be if you had a mistress. But I absolutely love this sport enough to know that whenever things aren't going well, you just keep doing what you're doing, maybe back off a little bit. But I don't even have any plans of quitting until I start recognizing that I'm not doing as well as I believe I can. And that day comes when I feel I can't protect the fighters, or I'm making mistakes on a regular basis that I shouldn't have been making. I'll pull the plug and I'll stop refereeing, and I'll only judge. No one's going to have to force me out. Trust me.
In your opinion, from your observations, from what you've seen and what you see every day on duty, do you think that there's people out there that shouldn't be in the sport, like whether it be referees or judges or whatever officials appointed by the state, that you don't think that belong there?
Well, I totally agree with you, and what I'm saying is yes, there are people in the officials' ranks, officials in the industry of boxing, that should not be officials. And this is a very controversial topic that you're asking me to bring up, but I got no problem bringing it up. There are people in this sport that became referees and judges because they're somebody important's nephew. They had a connection. That connection got them in. They don't know the difference between a fish hook and a left hook. And all of a sudden, they're judging they're judging and refereeing fights, and they're in charge of people's lives and careers. It's disgraceful. I really think that, but this is life, by the way. This is life in politics. I really feel that everybody who referees a fight should have had at least a few amateur fights to know what it is to get punched in the face, to understand what these guys and gals are going through in front of them. You know, you take a guy who's never been punched in the face. Is he going to have compassion for a guy in front of him that's getting punched? You don't know what it's like. Also, I really think that you should not be able to become a referee until you're 30 years old and have a family. The reason is, as a young kid, as a young man, you know, you're thinking with the wrong part of your body. Your head's not doing the thinking, you know. You're running around there chasing tail and you're doing crazy things. And when you have a wife and you have kids, it's the first time, for me anyway, it's really the first time in your life where you love something so much that you would put them before yourself. You would actually sacrifice your life for another human being. You get older, you start developing that passion, that compassion, And I don't think people should be a ref till they're at least 30 years old, till they have that understanding that the person in front of them, not only their career is at stake, but their life's at stake. And they have to know that no matter what they look like in the ring, if it's making them look bad, they're going to get booed. If that guy's had enough, you got to stop that fight. You got to find a way to stop that fight. You got to make it happen to protect that kid from himself or whatever other things that are out there. So, yes, the industry is full of people that don't belong there. Would I take on the responsibility of cleaning it up? I don't know. Not at this time. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I've been very vocal my whole career about, there's people that don't belong, and there's people that are in it for the wrong reasons. I have to tell you, I have a group of close friends in this industry. None of us do this for the money. There's not a lot of money in this, and none of us do it for the money anyway. We do it for the love of the game. It's an honor for me to be in the ring with these tremendous warriors. These men and women are the toughest. I love being around them. They're just such wonderful, down-to-earth, tough people. Even a guy like Floyd Mayweather, who comes off like the money team, and he's bragging. You know what? You get that guy alone in a room. He's the nicest guy in the world. That's all the public face. That's all. You know what I'm saying? To hype the fights and stuff. These fighters are the greatest people on the earth. They're really humble, down-to-earth guys, tough as nails, which I really love. And I get the opportunity to be around them. It's wonderful. To work with them, to have them know me and vice versa. It's great. Where there's other people that are only in this to bring attention to themselves, to possibly get some kind of recognition or fame or something like that, so they can walk into their office, their business, and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a professional boxing referee." Maybe they'll have it easier in their office, but they really shouldn't be here. And the public's smart enough to figure out who those people are, the difference between those people, and really who they are, and let the public decide who's who in it.
And you, of all people, I had to ask that question, man, because you've been a firefighter, and like I said, that I've been in that, type of camaraderie, and I know that you're there for the people, and there's not a lot of people in certain places. I'm not gonna say names, but certain places that should even be there, because you got people's lives on your hands, and you for 31 years have done that, and most of them can't say that they've done that too.
I agree. In fact, if you look around and just follow the path, see how certain people became officials. If they were related to somebody who got them in, friends of somebody who got them in, you follow? The guys, my best friends in this industry are unrelated to anybody else in this industry and came up themselves through the ranks. Their uncle, father, brother, sister, nobody's in the industry. And they made it on their own. And that's the way I am. I didn't know anybody when I came in here.
Man, that's awesome, Jack. But do you ever regret getting into this refereeing thing, getting into boxing, getting into the sport? Do you ever regret that? And what do you think of your job right now?
Well, I've never regretted it. Um, how can I say I've never regretted it? I have regretted it. When I look at my kids and my wife and realize the amount of time that I've taken away from them to do this, you know what I'm talking about, Albert. And the amount of their growing up that I missed, I have those kind of regrets. Um, I'm glad I'm in it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm honored to be in it. I'm blessed to be in it. I'm just a young kid. I'm just a kid from the streets of Brooklyn, and now I'm involved with professional boxing. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So nothing's perfect, and I do have regrets, but looking back, I wouldn't change it for the world. I love doing what I'm doing.
Even though you're going to be here for another 100 years, Jack, what do you want people to think of whenever they think of referee Jack Reiss?
Well, if they remember me, I hope they feel that I was a good referee. I was one of the better referees in the industry. And for sure, I want them to think of me as a person that was always honest and fair, and that I represented the sport of boxing in a great manner, in a positive manner, in a great manner. And what more else can I ask for than that?
Thank you very much, Jack, for coming out to TheBoxingBar.com. Future California Boxing Hall of Famer. What do you think of that also, man? I didn't even ask you about that.
Well, how you say it's a thankless job? I'm being thanked. So somebody was nice enough to nominate me for the California Boxing Hall of Fame, and they accepted the nomination, and I'm being inducted on October 25th, and it's like the greatest thing in the world. I didn't get recognized ever in school growing up. I didn't get recognized hardly, much in my job. I can't say that I did, but it didn't mean anything to me compared to this. This is the greatest honor I've ever received in my entire life. As far as a personal honor, obviously, the birth of my kids, getting married and things mean a lot to me, but, personal accomplishments, this is absolutely wonderful. I'm blown away, and I'm so appreciative I can't even tell you.
Thank you. Appreciate all your time, my brother.
Thank you for interviewing me. I appreciate it.